money holding up?" Logan asked. He had met Asia and Claire's mother at Lance's wedding and had liked her immediately. "It's the not knowing that's driving everyone crazy. But don't worry. As soon as I hear anything, I'll let you know." "Okay. Give Asia and the baby a kiss for me." The moment he disconnected the call with Lance, Logan rubbed a hand down his face before moving toward the kitchen to grab a beer out of the refrigerator. When his phone rang again, he quickly answered it. "Hello. I guess you heard about the bombing in Algiers." It was his brother, Lyle. "Yes, Lance just called." He then relayed what Lance had told him about Asia talking to Claire earlier and her plans to go to that restaurant for dinner with friends. "Let's hope she changed her mind or hadn't arrived yet," Lyle said softly. "Yes, let's hope." He wasn't sure how he would handle it if that wasn't the case. In that instant, he suddenly felt much older than his 40 years. Logan ended the call with Lyle, and before he could finish his beer, his phone rang again. In the next few minutes, he got calls from his father, Jeremiah, and sister Carrie, who both lived in Gary, Indiana. They too had heard about the bombing and were hopeful Claire was safe. After he finally managed to get off the phone, he headed for his patio that overlooked the bay. Dusk had settled in, and as he dropped into a chair, he suddenly realized how many members of his family knew the way he felt about Claire. Yet Claire herself didn't have the slightest idea. He was certain at some point she had picked up on the attraction between them, the sexual chemistry. It had been too strong for her not to have noticed. But they hadn't made any effort to act on it, and instead had done their best to ignore it. At least she had. He couldn't. Because he'd known her career goals and her plans not to return to the United States to live on a permanent basis for at least a couple more years, he had been content to wait for her. For one thing, he wasn't cut out for a long-distance relationship, which was all she could have offered him, if she was interested at all. Besides, if he was honest with himself, he'd have to admit he was enjoying his freedom. This was the first time in 10 years that he didn't have to worry about anyone but himself. When she'd been 18, Carrie had moved in with him and had remained for 8 years. Even while attending the local university, she had preferred living at home instead of in the dormitory or an apartment. The arrangement had suited them both fine. Carrie had needed him to extend his older brother role, and he hadn't been in any hurry to relinquish it. Now Carrie was happily married to Connor and living in Gary near their father, and she and Connor were expecting their first baby. He thought about his younger brothers, Lyle and Lance. Like him, Lyle had chosen a career in medicine. Logan himself was a plastic surgeon, while Lyle, who lived in Texas with his wife Monique, was a heart specialist. Lance, though, had taken a different path. He was a relationship guru and best-selling author. One of his novels, The Player's Handbook, which supposedly perfected the art of being a single man, namely a playa, had caused quite a national stir a few years back. Now the die-hard player was happily married with a 7-month-old son named Leland. Logan stretched his legs out in front of him. This had been an eventful year. Leland had been born in February, Lyle had gotten married in April, and Carrie's baby was due in the spring. Everyone seemed to be moving on. Everyone but him. He took another sip of his beer, remembering the first time he'd met Claire Fowler. It was after Lance and Asia's turbulent love affair, which finally ended in marriage. Logan and Claire had met at the rehearsal dinner on Paradise, the island where the wedding had taken place. In a way, he'd known before meeting Claire that he would like her, mainly because she had been instrumental in helping Lance win over Asia. He'd figured if a woman like Asia